I want to look at tonight is just the purpose that we all have and a sense of purpose for life. I think that's an important concept to think about because if you really feel like you have no purpose, then how does leadership start and where does leadership start? So I want to talk a little bit about sense of purpose in life, and of course, that having a sense of purpose in life, is essential to our well-being, but it's also part and parcel linked to our leadership development. And I think that that includes, a sense of purpose for, if you're married, for your marriage, a sense of purpose for your calling, your ministry, if you're called to the ministry, a sense of purpose for your business and for your workplace, I think is equally important. So that's very important. And last week I said to you, maybe the workplace that you're in is not the kind of workplace that you envisaged for yourself. But I think that how we respond and our attitude in that workplace could be used as a stepping stone for God to get us into the right job, workplace that has a sense of purpose attached to it. So we're going to look a little bit about that. I want to ask you a question tonight. What does having a sense of purpose look like in the workplace? How would you know that you have a sense of purpose for the workplace that you're involved in? So, for example, you can say that, well, I'm contentment. All right. So let's have a look and see what would be, if you were to think about sense of purpose and having a sense of purpose in the workplace environment, what would I be looking for? So I'm going to just wait a while, let those comments come through, because I think that it's important to have a sense of purpose in life. Like I said, it's not, and that's just not for your well-being, but in every aspect of your life. And thank God that we have a God-inspired purpose, a God-given purpose. We weren't just born nilly-willy. Sometimes we think we were an accident. We were told by our parents that we were an accident or whatever the case is, but never, in the eyes of God were you an accident. Okay, so the sense of purpose is good. What would I be looking for if I want to think about a sense of purpose that I have in my workplace? What are some of the characteristics? What are some of the things I'm looking for? All right, so I see Veronica saying passion drives purpose. I like that. So in other words, in that workplace, I'm passionate about what I'm doing. That would be a key indicator that I have a sense of purpose. Having passion is very good. I think even simpler things. Am I happy going to work every day? Is there happiness? Is it fun for me to get up in the morning and go to that work environment? Okay. Now, like I said before, maybe that workplace is not where you envisage yourself, but if you are faithful and your attitude is right in that workplace, I do believe God can use that as a stepping stone to get you into your God-given, purposed workplace environment. But what are some of the other things? So, Veronica, thank you so much. Passion drives purpose. I like that. I think maybe being happy. I think if you have a sense of purpose, wouldn't you think yourself to be fulfilled? I think that would be one of the characteristics that I would think about. Rachel says working with excellence and integrity. Absolutely. If I have a sense of purpose that I know God has called me to that work environment, then I'm going to do things well there in that workplace, right? And there's going to be integrity. As a matter of fact, I become an asset in that company. And if I have a sense of purpose, the focus is on serving that organization, serving that business, and making that business look even better. That would be like phenomenal. If you have a sense of purpose, knowing that that's where God has called you to be in that work environment, man, you're going to be passionate. You're going to excel. You're going to stand out. Actually, if I can be quite honest, there's going to be integrity. I see Nileti says when you're making a positive difference. Absolutely. So all of these are key indicators that you have a sense of purpose in your work environment. That you're not you're not a liability. You're an asset. And if you have, I can tell you now, if you have a sense of purpose in your work environment, let me tell you something. Your boss, you're going to stand out to your boss. He's going to notice you. And the thing about having a sense of purpose and why it's important is you won't even need to chase money. You won't even need to chase promotion. That will just come automatically because you're passionate about what you're doing. You're happy about what you're doing. You're happy when you get there. It's not like you get to the workplace and you have a dark cloud over you and you're miserable and you're snappy and you're short-tempered and all of that kind of a thing. But that's what a sense of purpose does. Well, let me ask you something else. Nicolette says gratefulness and staying focused. Absolutely. That's also good. Very true as well. I think also we could say there that if I have a sense of purpose, I'm going to make every day that I go to work, I'm going to make it a memorable day. Memorable day. I want to tell you, family, we don't have a lot of time on this earth. And I think it would be terrible to have to drag yourself to work and you're miserable and to have to do that for what, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. There are times when you might have to say, look, I've come to the end of this work environment and I'm stepping into something else. And again, you've got to check your attitude towards your boss and the situation. But life is too short to have 25 years of your life where you are miserable, you have no sense of purpose, and you're unhappy, you're unproductive, you're fruitless. I mean, all of that would be if you have no sense of purpose, all right? So let's look at the flip side of that. The flip side of that would be okay, what does having no sense of purpose in the workplace look like? What would it look like if and I want you to ask yourself that question. Do you have maybe no sense of purpose? So, for example, if I was bored in that workplace, well, maybe it's an indication that I'm losing my sense of purpose. Um, Maybe if I'm frustrated in that workplace, maybe it would be because I'm losing that sense of purpose, or I really didn't have a sense of purpose. I think that those would be uh, key indicators to ensure that you have a sense of purpose, not just in church, not just on a Sunday, not just in the ministry, not just in your marriage, not just relationships, etc., but also in your workplace. And again, let me just reiterate for those of you that are joining with us. That workplace that you're in might not be the place where you envisage yourself or where you feel God's called you. But if you remain, and I'm not telling you to quit your job either, but if you remain faithful and you do that work with excellence and integrity, I do believe with all of my heart that God will use that as a stepping stone and open up doors where you can find your sense of fulfillment in that workplace. So obviously, if I don't have a sense of purpose, I'm going to be fearful. I'm going to be unhappy. I'm going to be frustrated. I'm going to be unproductive. I'm going to come to work and maybe do my private stuff at work, right? Because I really have no sense of purpose. Um, I'm going to come to work and really feel like I'm under challenged. I'm going to come to work if I have no sense of purpose. I'm going to pretend like I'm busy. Okay, I can maybe I'm trampling on somebody's toes. I think we have to be honest with ourselves, Do I have a sense of purpose in my work environment or not? And these are some of the things. How about I'm always tired and uninterested at work, or maybe it's because I have no sense of purpose. How about if I find my work meaningless? Well, maybe it's because I don't have a sense of purpose. And if I have no sense of purpose, maybe it's taking me longer to complete those jobs. And obviously, people are noticing I'm not going to get promoted. I'm not going to stand out. In fact, if anything, I'm going to be a liability to my boss instead of being an asset. And so I wanted to just encourage you with these just about the sense of purpose. Like I said, life is very, very short. And I firmly believe in having a sense of purpose, like I said, for your marriage, your finances, your business, your ministry, in your family relationship wise. Um, it's very important. And I really believe in my heart that you can't leave it up to your boss or to someone else to find that sense of purpose for you. And as a matter of fact, I want to just go on and say, actually, it's up to you to define and enact your purpose in the work environment. And some of the ways in which you can do that to find purpose in a working environment. Okay, so I'm working for somebody. I don't really know if I have a sense of purpose. Maybe some of the things that I've mentioned put you in that category where there's no sense of purpose. But here's a way in which you can find purpose in a work environment. So I think it's to ask yourself this question: what actually motivates you? What is it that motivates you, that will get you out of bed in the morning, do what you do, catch a taxi or whatever it is, get transport or your own car, get to work, spend 8 hours in that work environment, come back home, and you might have to do some work at home, get up the next morning. What is it that motivates you? And I think attached to that question as well, you have to ask yourself, what are my talents? What are my giftings? And I think you got to be honest with yourself. You either are gifted in that area or you're not. Okay. You can't pretend to be gifted in an area and you actually lack that area. Actually, the thing that interests you is probably where that gifting lies. So look for the gifting, look for the talents, look for what motivates you, and this will give you a hint as to where your purpose is in this life, where your purpose lies. If you look at the gifting that God has placed on the inside of you, remember there's nobody insignificant on this earth, okay? Nobody that is irrelevant. Like I said, you were not a mistake, and everybody is called by God, gifted by God, and I do believe that that translates to phenomenal leadership. All right. So, what is it that motivates you? Look at your giftings and talents, and then look at your personal goals. And maybe tonight I'll end off by just looking at what's a good way in which we can set goals for ourselves, goals that are attainable, goals that, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But I would say, look at your personal goals and see and look for a company that kind of supports those personal goals or lines up with that, and then see how with your gifting and your talent, how can you make that company better? All right. And I think that goals are very important. I don't know what some of your goals are. Maybe in the minutes that are remaining, why don't you let me know what some of your goals are? I know we're in June right now, halfway through the year. We've gone to, I think it's level, I don't know what level we're on, but we were on level 2, I think. So, and we're in this, they say, approaching this third wave. But let not that distract you from your goals and your focus and your purpose. There's still a lot that you can do with all that's happening out in the world. All right, God is still on his throne. God is still busy moving. And there's people that we can still influence. All right, so life continues, COVID or no COVID. And I want to just encourage you on that. It's just going to make us stronger on the inside of you. But what are some of your goals that you would like to see fulfilled by the end of this year? All right. So I think let me find out, what are some of your goals? I don't know what it is. Maybe it's to get fitter. My goal, obviously, is to get my shoulder healed and get moving again. They tell me it's a 4 to 6 week recovery where you can't move your shoulder. But anyways, I'm glad that I did have it done. And by the way, let me just say, this is not this is not CrossFit, the fault of CrossFit. This shoulder injury was way back when I was just gymming in a gym, and we were doing bench press of all things and trying to see who could go the heaviest. And you do crazy things when you're young, even when you're old as well. But anyways, So my goal is to, get back up, start using my shoulder, and get back to where I was. What are some of your goals? Let me know. Let me know what some of your goals are, uh, and we'll chat a bit about them. But setting goals, I think, is very, very important, and it's part of purpose, finding purpose. All right, they're very linked. They're very linked. If you don't, I think setting goals is important because it gives you a sense of direction. There is motivation that comes as you look at these goals. And not only that, there is focus that comes, and you're able to major on majors and minor on minors. Okay, so it's important that you separate, what is important, what is not important, what is important, and goal setting is that. And there's a way of setting goals that I think is very, very easy, and it's very clever. Okay, it's one thing writing a list of goals and then looking at that list and doing nothing with that list. But I've discovered, and through leadership content and leadership podcasts, and it's all out there. One of the ways in doing that is what is known as SMART goals. SMART, SMART goals. And SMART is actually an acronym. All right. So while I'm talking about that, let me know what some of your goals are. Maybe setting up another business. I don't know. Let's look at what your goals are for this year. So while we're looking at that, let's talk a bit about SMART goals. If you're setting goals, very important. Use the SMART goal technique. And what is SMART? SMART. So the SMART, the S for SMART is, if you're going to set a goal, don't be vague with that goal. Be specific. S is for specific. I have to be specific with that goal. All right. And it's got to be well defined. If I'm specific, it's got to be clear. Nothing ambiguous about it. All right. It's actually very, very clear what it is. And when I'm being specific with my goals, there's 5 W's that we ask. And the 5 W's are who, what, why, where, when. If you can fit those 5 W's uh, into being specific, like who are these goals for? It's for me, all right. Or maybe it's for your marriage, for me and my wife, me and my spouse. So be specific with that, all right? That's the S. The M, SM, is if you can't measure something, how do you know if you're on track? How do you know if you are progressing? So be specific, but at the same time, something that is measurable, which will help you keep on track. So if my aim is, okay, let's say it's to lose weight. Okay. Well, you've got some measurable. How much weight? You want to get fit. Okay, that's a bit of like an ambiguous goal, but maybe it's, to be more specific, would be, you know what, I want to get to the gym at least 4 times a week to train, and my measurable would be that in a month's time, I want to lose 5 kilograms, or in 6 months' time, I'm weighing such and such. I'd like to come down to this weight. Those are some measurables, and I think that if you do it and you break it up every month and so on and so forth, you are able to see if you're tracking, if you're on track, and if you're accomplishing the goal. So that's the S. The M. The A, SMA, is are these goals achievable? I think you've got to be realistic as well. And I know that we are a faith people that have a faith covenant with a faith God, but we have to set goals that are attainable, achievable. In other words, it's not impossible to achieve. It's possible. It's possible. And I don't want to make it so easy that I'm not stretching myself. So there's got to be that, this thing is like, it's not comfortable. It's stretching me. It's getting me out of my complacency. It's getting me out of my rut. But actually, it's actually achievable, okay? Because I know others who are worse off than me that have done it. So I know that if they can do it, I can do it as well. So achievable is very important, attainable. And you have to ask yourself also these questions. Do I have the resources and the capabilities to achieve this goal. Okay. And then also, like I said, have others done it, and have they done it successfully? If they've done it, you know what? I can relate to them. Then if they can do it, I can do it as well. So that's the A. The R is it's going to be a realistic, within reach, not only attainable and achievable, but within reach. I've got to be realistic and relevant to my purpose in this life. And I think that's important. Realistic. One has to be realistic. So let's have a look at what some of you are saying here. Okay. We've got to be specific, measurable. Shada says measurable. Devoy says the key with setting goals is aligning it to an action plan, to know to how you are going to achieve the goal, an action plan. I like that. It's pretty much what we're saying here, so that you know what, you're fulfilling these goals, and it's not just something that you wrote on paper. You actually, the nuts and bolts of it is the working out of it, and I'm working it out, which is great. So the R is realistic, and then SMART. When do you want to achieve these goals? I think you've got to have a timeline, because otherwise, if there's no timeline, it doesn't create a sense of urgency. So I want to lose weight by the end of this year. There's an urgency. I've got 6 months. There's a target date. So that's going to help me. If a goal is not time constrained, you're not going to have a sense of urgency, and it's going to go up and down. And when you're feeling great, you're gonna work on it. When you're not feeling so great, because you know what, I've got 2 years, I got 3 years, I got 5 years. No, you don't. You have to set some times and a timeline to achieve that goal, and I think that's important. All right. So yeah, just looking at a sense of purpose for your workplace, I think that's very, very important. And again, I want to just stress this fact that if you're just working in a place right now, and it's a temporary job, or it's just the first job that you can get, that's great. Okay. God can still use that. It might not be the place where you envisage yourself, but in that workplace, God can teach you a lot of things. And out of a sense of purpose, He can develop your leadership abilities, leadership skills. Because, like I said 2 weeks ago, if you cannot lead yourself, how are you going to lead others? All right. So I think that's very, very important. Leadership begins with you. And again, leadership is nothing less, nothing more than really having an influence. And thank God we have the right kind of an influence, the God influence, and we have God working on the inside of us. And we're the light in a dark place, shining in a dark place. And we can bring hope. We can bring solutions to that organization. I mean, come on, that's what Daniel did. I mean, he was wise. He stood out amongst the others, as did Joseph. They were both in foreign environments. They weren't in a church environment. They weren't in a Christian environment. But they stood out because they had a sense of purpose, and they excelled at what Daniel knew that wasn't what he was ultimately called to do, but he still excelled in that place and refused to eat the king's food and all of that. But he stood out, and he was noticed, and he was an asset to the king, as was Joseph. I mean, Joseph was Pharaoh's right-hand man. He was prime minister of Egypt. And especially when they were going through a time of famine, the 7 years of famine, he came up with the solution. So I want to encourage you, don't look down, don't frown upon the workplace that you're in. Might not be the right place. A lot of you, maybe you have a sense of purpose, and God has called you there. Some of you are entrepreneurs. Others of you have opened franchises, whatever it is, and you're doing that with a sense of purpose. Great, wonderful. But for those of you maybe that are battling with that, don't frown upon that work environment. God can use the situation there. God can use that work environment. And you say, but things are bad out there in the natural. Again, let me remind you, we're not confined to the world's economy. Everything that can be shaken is being shaken right now. Let me tell you that. Everything that can be shaken is being shaken right now. I was just chatting to my cousin this morning because it was his birthday and he was in the UK, and he said, he runs an Uber. He's an Uber guy, and he's been doing that for several years and has a phenomenal track record and phenomenal rating. And he says, I take extra care to clean out my car to make sure that it's because it's the people. He says the people matter. And I asked him, I'm sure you must have had a lot of interesting people get into that car. He said, man, the interesting thing was when COVID happened and he was taking people to Canary Wharf, which is like the Wall Street of the UK. He said, man, you can't believe the fear and the panic, and it was just unbelievable. He said, just the fear and, businesses shutting down and selling off stock, and people were really fearful and anxious. So everything that can be shaken is being shaken right now. I want to just tell you that. We are part of a kingdom that cannot be shaken. And if God be for you, who can be against you? All right. So in that work environment, I believe God can prosper you. God can open up doors. God can promote you. If you have a sense of purpose, let me tell you, all the money will come to you. The promotion will come. You don't have to even blow your own trumpet and try and be noticed. God will open the eyes of your boss and the powers that be in that organization, and they will see you. So tonight, thank you so much. Great to be on with all of you. Uh, Charlene says the workplace can be a place of training to shape your character and prepare you for your destiny. Absolutely. And especially for bringing out leadership ability, leadership skills, leadership, criteria, characteristics. Absolutely, because God has called you to be an influence in that company. So I want to encourage you. Um, Thank you so much for all of your comments. I will be back again next Wednesday. And I know I've been on for 28 minutes now already, so I need to get off. But it's been wonderful. I do apologize once again for not being here last Wednesday. I was a little bit groggy. I think you can forgive me. I look forward to spending more time with you and seeing what you have to say about leadership. But until next time, let me pray with you before I go. Father, I want to thank you for everyone that is watching right now. I pray that this word would have ministered in this interaction, God, just people being motivated, encouraged, inspired. I want to thank you for your hand of protection upon every single person. You're a God of miracles. You always have been, you always will be. And we believe in signs, wonders, and miracles in Jesus' name. Folks, until next time, we love you. Take care. God bless you.